Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, August 17th, 2022 Penfield Town Board Legislative Session. Would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much and welcome to everyone here this evening. Would the town clerk please call the roll?
Cinti.
Here.
Drawe.
Here.
Kohl.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Ockenden.
Here.
Thank you. I just want to talk a little bit about our agenda. We have a very full agenda this evening. We'll be starting with our communications and announcements, as we always do, and then moving right into our public hearings. We have 3 this evening. After that, we will have our first public participation session. Remember, we have 2, one at the beginning and one at the end. And then we will be moving into executive session, and I'll be making a motion describing that action afterwards. So I'm moving executive session up a little bit higher in the agenda than what it's printed. Okay? All right. So for communication and announcements, we're going to start with Lynn Mullooly, who's here to discuss the Penfield Public Library Foundation and just give the community a little bit of background on your fairly new organization.
Yes, very new. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, Lynn.
I'm Lynn Mullooly, longtime Penfield resident and lifelong library lover. I served on the Penfield Library Board for about 9 years and then moved to join the new Penfield Library Foundation Board. So we formed ourselves. We became official at the very, very end of 2019. So we exist to provide long-term financial support for the public library beyond what taxes could do. So there's many of our sister towns around Monroe County have foundations. We were seeing that. We were wanting to create a little more sustainability for the library, and so Kathy Weber, who also had been a longtime library board member, joined me. So we two have been on it. Nancy Alman is here tonight. She's a Penfield Rotarian and also joining us on the board. Devin Snyder was recently our treasurer, and he's just finished his term, and we have a new member, Cinti DeFalco. So I just wanted to let people know we exist, let you guys all know we exist. I know some of you do. So we've been doing some fundraising, but our long-term goal is to raise enough money and that we could invest and then make a significant annual gift to the library. So I hope you all know about the Friends, who are fantastic, and they do the book sale every year. They tend to be more an annual support for the library, and what they raise from the book sale usually is able to pay for all the programs at the library and keep them free, which is fantastic. So we're our own separate 501c3. We're friendly with everyone, but we just have a different aim. Of course, we started right before COVID, so that made things a little difficult. So we pivoted like everyone else. So we changed a little bit from our long-term strategy, and we wanted to do some things right away for the library. So that our first year, we talked with the director, and we purchased something called Brain Fuse, which was an online platform that gave kids help with tutoring, online job application help. So we did that. And then last year, we helped pay for 2 streaming services, one called Craftsy and another one called Great Courses. And then this past spring, we sponsored a free to the patrons a children's author visit. And then we also gave a donation to put some of his books on the shelves. So we've been doing those little things and also doing some fundraising. We've hit upon wine tastings as a relatively easy thing we could do. We did 2 virtual ones. I've lost track of the year, but 2 virtual ones. We did one in person in May, and we're doing another one in September 10th. So there'll be a slide up that's, we have a tiny little website. It's penfieldlibraryfoundation.org. We are on Facebook. You can follow us and find information. So we would love to see community members there. We're also in need of more board members. So we are totally volunteer. We're especially in need of a treasurer and or financial volunteers. So help us spread the word. I hope people will see that. But all kind of board skills we're looking for, people with ties to the community. I think the biggest thing for us is to just increase our visibility. So we're happy to talk to anyone, reach out to us. I'll just say the wine tasting is going to be a Finger Lakes wine tasting, and it's at My Wine and Cheese Bar 2, TOO, on Saturday, September 10th. So I was telling Marie, we did one there in May, and it was so much fun. And I enjoy wine, and I enjoy the taste of wine, but the whole pairing with the right cheeses and everything, it was just fantastic. So, and we're actually having a New York State wine judge who's going to do that for us. So I've been using the library for 28 years. All the time I've been in Penfield. We're so blessed to have such a great library, fantastic staff. We want to keep that level of service. I mean, everything is changing. We don't want to expect that we can keep our library at our highest level. We want to, without extra support. So that's what we're here for, and we welcome your support. Any questions, let us know, reach out, and hope to see you on September 10th.
Great.
Any questions? Or
Thank you, Lynn, very much. Are there any questions by the board?
Oh, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you're doing for the community. Thank you, Nancy,
Thanks, Lynn.
for coming
Hi,
today.
Nancy.
Okay, moving on with the remainder of our communications for the evening. I'll start with our town clerk.
So our rabies clinic is back. It will be August 27th, which is a Saturday, from 10 to noon at 1607 Jackson Road at the Department of Public Works. You will need to bring a written proof of prior vaccination to get a 3-year vaccination. Tags are not accepted. If it's a brand-new dog, the vaccination will be for 1 year, and then following years, it will be a 3-year vaccination. It's going to be hosted by the Town of Penfield and Monroe County Department of Health. So that's August 27th, a Saturday, from 10 to noon.
Thank you very much. Any other announcements? Okay, Councilperson Ockenden.
Thank you. I do have a couple announcements tonight. The first is a reminder that we're having our household hazardous waste drop-off. It'll be Saturday, September 17th. It'll run from 7:45 to noon. And this is by appointment only. You should visit Monroe County's website for this. It'll be www.monroecounty.gov/HHW. But the event itself is being held here at our DPW facility at 1607 Jackson Road. It's open to all Monroe County residents, and waste from businesses will not be accepted at this event. But again, visit the monroecounty.gov website for additional information on that. Again, September 17th. And one other note, just to announce that starting on September 7th, town board meetings will begin at 6:30 p.m. Right here, same location. They will still be live on Penfield Television, Government Channel 1303, streaming through Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. So nothing's changing other than the start time, and that will be our next meeting, September 7th, that change will take effect. So 6:30 at this point going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Drawe.
Yes, thanks. I have a couple announcements tonight. The first is to congratulate Nick Vessa. He is our newest Eagle Scout here in Penfield. He installed a footbridge. I think there might be a picture of him. There we go. At the 4 Mile Creek Trail for his Eagle Scout project. So we want to congratulate Nick. Here's some other pictures of him working with his fellow, I think, scouts and family. So great job, Nick. We're always glad to promote our Eagle Scouts, all our scouts here in Penfield. So congratulations again. And take a look at that footbridge sometime, because if you've never walked on 4 Mile Creek Trail, it is a nice little trail. So thank you again, Nick. And the second announcement I have is it's getting towards the end of summer, I know, and that means the summer concert series, which goes on right behind the town hall here down at the amphitheater, is coming to an end. The last couple of concerts is August 23rd is Raquel and the Wildflowers at 6:30, and then the Tasting the Blues is with Steve Grills and the Roadmasters is Saturday, September 10th at noon. Again, this is the last of the concerts for the summer, so get out there and enjoy it while the getting's good. So the music's beautiful. Again, you can look at www.penfield.org to find out more about these events. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilperson Drawe. Councilperson Kohl.
Okay, I have two announcements. Everyone should have received their fall Penfield Rec brochure. It's this one, and it starting August 22nd, next Monday, you can start registering for all the classes. You know, they got Halloween on the front, so it's a lot of, we're going into those months all the way through November, so please check it out. There's a lot of great things to sign up for.
And the other announcement is the library, the 45th annual used book sale, September 13th through the 17th at the Community Center, 1985 Baird Road. And please bring your reusable bag, and you can pick up the books. Any information, further information, go to the Penfield Public Library. But that's always a great event, and they got the CDs and books and so on like that. There's a lot to choose from. So this is what, as Lynn mentioned, it helps fund the library programs and some capital projects too. So it's a great group, and they do a lot for the library. That's it.
Thank you. Councilperson Lee.
Thank you. Not to be confused with the hazardous waste drop-off days, the town will be hosting also recycling days on September 30th from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and again on October 1st from 7:30 to 3 p.m., held also at the Penfield DPW facility. Residents can bring metals and appliance recycling, brush, no leaves or grass, clothing and linen donations, and bottle and can recycling. There will also be secure document destruction available on site. Thank you.
Thank you. I have two announcements. The first is just for you to mark your calendars for Saturday, September 24th. We are going to have a Shadow Pine celebration, and really using that as an opportunity to showcase how this land will be used by the entire community. More details will definitely be coming forward, but I just wanted everyone to know to mark their calendars for September 24th from 1 to 3 at 600 Wayland Road. The other announcement is a couple of us were able to attend the Monroe County Water Authority Flip the Switch. I'm hoping that we have some. There we go. We have some photos from that event. This is a new 5-megawatt solar array that's actually done by the Monroe County Water Authority. And what is interesting about this array is that it has bifacial panels. So has panels on the top, but then it also has panels underneath for when it snows. It will actually hopefully gather the reflecting light back off the snow, which is kind of unusual. And then that is also, as you see, a pollinator mix. That's the ground cover that was planted there. So trying to encourage pollinator habitats as well. So again, that's Monroe County Water Authority's project, but it was on Penfield land. So we were able to go and to the ribbon cutting, or the flip the switch, I guess it was called. Okay, that concludes our communication and announcements, but we do have 3 public hearings. Our first public hearing, I'm going to ask the town clerk to announce.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Supervisor. To consider adoption of local law to provide for a 5-member Board of Ethics, the legal notice was published in the Webster Herald, July 28th, 2022, posted on the town website and town clerk bulletin board. No postcards were mailed due to this being a townwide action.
Thank you very much. I do just want to mention that our current ethics board is only comprised of 3 people, but this town board would like to encourage resident participation. So we are hoping to increase it to 5-member board, which is consistent with our other boards as well, planning board, zoning board, things like that. So if you do have any comments about this particular application, you can reach us at 340-8771. You can also email us through the website at penfield.org, or you may be here to speak to this in person. And could I ask the town clerk if there's anyone scheduled for this public hearing?
No one for this public hearing.
Okay. All right, and I'm not seeing anyone on hold, nor am I seeing any residents coming in through our website. So what I'll do is I will consider this public hearing closed, and we will have action for that later this evening if the board so desires. So moving on to public hearing number 2.
To consider amending the zoning ordinance and map to rezone 1506 Empire Boulevard from residential 112 to limited business. The legal notice was published in the Webster Herald, July 28th, 2022, posted on the town website and Town Clerk Bulletin Board. 23 postcards were mailed.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Ms. Ivers to tee this up for us.
Thank you. So application was received. This is actually a concept or an idea that had been reviewed by the Comprehensive Plan Committee. The committee did review the request and was in favor of, excuse me, in favor of the change from R112 to limited business. In this location along Empire Boulevard, R112 likely would not be a feasible development scenario. Limited business does provide more development potential that's consistent with development along this corridor. So tonight is just the public hearing that's required before any map amendment can take place.
Okay, thanks. If you weren't paying attention for the first hearing, you can call us at 340-8771, or you can reach us online at penfield.org. Would the town clerk have anyone requesting to speak for this public hearing?
Yes, I do. Michael and Biz Hansen.
Thank you very much. Michael, feel free to come and sit down. And we'll start with your name and address for the record.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Michael Hansen. This is my wife, Biz. We live at 44 Littlewood Lane West in Penfield.
How do you
We're
do?
the
Thank
property
you.
that is abutting immediately behind this property in the center. So 44, and it's indicated on the map pretty clearly is where we are.
Okay. Okay, do you have any comments you'd like to share?
Yes, so first off, I'd like to thank the board for letting us have the opportunity to speak, express some of our concerns, and hope that you take them into consideration as you're pondering whether we allow this zoning or whether this zoning change is allowed or not. So being immediately behind this property and having Empire on the other side of it, we experience a high degree of noise pollution at the back of our house and in our backyard. We, over the years, had done a lot of changes in our yard to make it a place like our little oasis where we go out. We have a pool, we have a nice deck, we have all these things. We enjoy the yard good portion of the year. And, you know, it's a little tough for us with the road there now, and we have strong concerns that changing that property to limited business, and it's indicated in the application that there may be parking lot, could be a restaurant, could be a gas station, could be any number of different things, which we really don't know. Want to make sure that you know that we're concerned about that, and extra noise, more traffic. There's also the barrier between our properties really isn't there, so anybody from that property can kind of come back onto our properties. There's a kind of a rickety old fence there, but there's nothing to stop people from coming up into our yards from that area if, you know, they were so inclined, because there would be more traffic, more people, more things going on there than there are now. It's very quiet with the residents that they live there on now. Also concerned about construction noise. So if any of that is going to go on, we've gone through several bouts of large construction efforts on the other side of Empire with the apartment complexes that went in. Years of noise with the trucks, the beeping all hours of the night. And then more recently, the veterinarian across the street, which we didn't really get a chance to chime in on. When that was built, a lot of noise, and now we're, for about 7 months of the year, subject to the light pollution that comes up from that property, because they keep that thing lit up very brightly all night long. We only get relief when the trees thicken, because it's right behind us. There are trees, but they're all the deciduous, so they drop their leaves 7 months of the year, and then we see everything right through. So we have concerns about that. Am I missing anything we talked about?
I don't think so. I mean, we're really tucked back there. Not a lot of people coming through at all. And they don't know that we're back there, but our concerns is that if they put a convenience store or a gas station, all of a sudden now we're exposed to Empire, and we haven't been before. And even if they put a buffer in with, you know, pine trees or something like that, there is really nothing that would stop anybody from coming from them into our backyard. I mean, and there's like 5 of us right back there that it's very concerning, very concerning. And we've
also had the opportunity of having been reassessed lately, and our reassessment has been, increased. And now for us to actually even consider selling, if that becomes a business back there, we've just lost some of our assessment,
It's our value, yeah.
our value. So we're very concerned about that as well. I mean, we've been here for 7 years, and we bought the property because it was so nice and tucked back in there, and now we are going to possibly lose that. So just wanted to voice our concerns.
Thank you very much. Do any of the town board members have any follow-up questions?
And just curious, the elevation from your property to the proposed area, are you above that?
We are above it.
We are above,
yeah.
yes.
Yep.
I was just looking at the map, I couldn't
Yep.
tell.
Yeah, quite a bit above, but we see right down to Empire from our back deck or our windows on the back of our house.
Gotcha.
And that's the lighting I spoke about that was kind of a surprise to us when that all went in, and unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I just have one question. Do you have any hard evidence or data that your property value would be affected by a zoning change?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, we didn't bring that with us, no.
Just what
That's
I feel.
that's a concern on our part. Yeah, do we really know what the
No.
numbers would do or be affected? No, we
No.
can't say that, admittedly.
Fair enough. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Well, thanks for the opportunity for letting us speak.
Thank you for coming this evening.
Yep.
I still am not seeing anyone on the phone or online. Amy, is there anyone else who would like to speak at this public hearing?
No, not for this one.
Okay, since there are no other speakers, I will declare this public meeting closed for the evening. And just so you know also, there's no decision being rendered this evening as well. This will come back to a future town board work session for discussion.
Will that be open to come in?
Yes, there won't be public participation. Work sessions are generally for the board to talk amongst themselves, but you absolutely can view it, and you can feel free to email us or call me with any other questions or concerns that you might have.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you. Okay, let me guess. Public hearing number 3 has some speakers. Would the town clerk please introduce this?
To consider amending the zoning ordinance, to consider the development of ancillary parking lot for K2 Brothers Brewing on a portion of 41 Woodhaven Drive. The legal notice was published in the Webster Herald on August 10th, posted on a town website and town clerk bulletin board. 10 postcards were mailed.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I turn this over to Ms. Ivers to tee up, I would like to just announce that, again, you can speak in person through the phone at 340-8771, or you can reach us on our website at penfield.org. So with that said, Ms. Ivers, why don't you take it away?
I'm happy to do that. The application before the town board is for site plan approval and subdivision to create the parcel that would be comprised of the ancillary parking. This is coming to the town board because it was subject to incentive zoning approval, which the board granted. And following long past practice, anytime the town board grants incentive zoning for a particular project, any subsequent approvals related to that development, site plan, subdivision, et cetera, comes to the town board for review. And so you'll see that the conceptual plan that was provided during the incentive zoning process has been formalized into a site plan application. There's been really no substantial changes to the design. It's just been more formalized and provided the level of detail that town staff would need to review from an engineering standpoint, and that is currently under review by the engineering department to ensure that all applicable regulations are being met from the design standpoint.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I open this up for public comment, I do want to just make clear that no decision will be reached tonight. This is solely for public comment and just to hear the public speaking. So with that said, is there anyone who would like to speak to this application?
Alice Pentland.
Good evening.
I think this is my second time at the microphone on this topic, and I appreciate the visit to our house, to a site visit.
Before you go further, could I just ask you to state your name and address for the record?
My name is Alice Pentland, and I live at 24 Old Westfall Drive. The location of the proposed parking lot is adjacent to my property.
Okay.
I would like to reiterate some of the concerns that I shared with you in person when you came to look at the site. It's going to be a source of noise. It's very close to the edge of the property. There is an elevation, but it acts as a sound funnel so that as we sleep in our bedroom and the party breaks at the party house and the 370 parking spots that they want, those people are going to come and they're going to be talking to each other, and it will be immediately adjacent to our property. So I think that that's a bad idea, just from the part of the value of our house, and I don't have any data that says that having a parking lot adjacent to my property would cause the value to drop. But I think it is probably one of the more valuable the houses in our neighborhood are some of the most expensive in Penfield, and having a parking lot right next door is probably not a virtue in the market that we would be selling our home. I think that I want to reiterate the danger to drivers who have been drinking at a party at the brewery, who are then breaking out late at night and trying to make a turn onto Empire Boulevard where there's no stoplight. Traffic accidents will go up. It's going to be dangerous. And I think that also that property is currently zoned residential, unless I misunderstood what the announcement was. Has some change in the zoning happened already?
The incentive zoning, just for the record, was granted on July 6th by the town board at a legislative work session.
So it's commercial property at the bottom of my hill now.
Could you explain incentive zoning?
So incentive zoning doesn't change the underlying zoning. It allows for a development, a specified development that offers a public benefit. And the public benefit that this project offers was the creation of a turning lane into Wilbur Track Drive that would help support both K2's operation, and also it's going to also benefit the residential development that has also been approved on the property adjacent to K2. Forgive me, the address is maybe
That's where the apartment building is proposed?
Yeah, that's where it's been approved. So incentive zoning allows a specific development to be approved in a location where otherwise the zoning wouldn't typically allow it, but because a public benefit is being offered, it's permitted. And that is something that only a town board can approve. So no other board in Penfield can approve an incentive zoning.
Okay.
So I also am bringing to your attention an email that was, I think, sent to you, Ms. Cinti, from Calvin Frailer, who is my neighbor, who strongly is opposed to this commercial development, and he has several reasons that I completely agree with. One is the model of buy residential property offers some little incentive to get it changed into business zoning and make money. And I think that that's basically what we're talking about here. We have somebody who bought a lot of property that is supposed to be for residential use, and he's cut a deal in order to make it commercial use, and that's going to create a positive cash balance. So I think that's not an appropriate
Dr. Putland,
approach.
when did Mr. Frailer send this? Was this several months ago?
Yes, this is from July 22nd. He reiterated when he was at my house.
Okay, so it's in the project file. Okay. Thank you.
That he felt very strongly that we don't need more commercial property in Penfield, that the value of Penfield is in its closeness to nature, and I would say that the neighborhood that I live in is a model for that, overlooking a large valley, and that I would certainly be happy to have,
residential property down there because I think it would respect the environment and the nature of the area, whereas a large parking lot won't. He also makes some statements about the tax base for the city, that if we're going to have residential property taxes raised, then people will be more sensitive to how much tax is being put into the school district. I personally am happy to pay money into the school district, but I'm going to give that to you, along with my notes about my objections from the point of noise and encroachment, and the notion of a little gift here and then suddenly the value of the property is much higher. I just think it's wrong and dangerous.
Thank you very much for your comments. Is there any follow-up question by a board member?
And Alice, I'll take those.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Petlin.
Okay. We have a Christopher Chauvin.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last name.
I think it's Chauvin? Chauvin. I was right.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Christopher Chauvin. I also live at 24 Old Westfall Drive. I have the good fortune to share that house with that beautiful woman. So my property, our property, abuts the expansion and development of the valley into what was originally a residential area and now is being provisionally considered a commercial zone for an expansion of a auxiliary parking for K2 Brewery. And as I understand it, you said that the provisional expanse of a commercial property was subject to for the public good. Well, what public? We're talking about two private enterprises, K2 Brewery, a private enterprise, and Dr. Howitt's expansion of building of a apartment building. There's no public good in this. The public, the people who live in this area, and I hesitate to speak for all of them, but most of them want to be surrounded by residential land, not commercial land. It does change the value of one's property when you went from being in the smack dab in the center of a residential neighborhood to abutting a commercial district. Any data that could be acquired would only be educated speculation. No one knows what prices will how prices will go. But it only stands to reason that if a residential neighborhood is changed to being next to a commercial, it will of course change property values. In fact, it will also change the property values of the land itself. People will now be able to buy, trade, and build on commercial land that they couldn't do on residential land, that we were protected. We were insulated. We had a buffer. And so I feel as if ever since people have tried to change the property, that I've been fighting against a torrent of pressure to have that be a commercial property down at the bottom of the hill, the area that we're talking about. And the more you change it, the easier it is for the owner to sell as a commercial property. And it takes a lot of more investment and gumption and long-term vision to invest in a residential property where houses haven't even been built. So I think that we're being sold down the river. And I think that this brings us to a larger picture. And it's actually part of the earlier item on the agenda about 1506 Empire. I know that's not part of this, but you have to decide, you people have to decide what your vision of Penfield is Penfield going to become some residences interspersed with commercial development along Empire, along 440 or 250? Again and again, when this has come to a vote before the public, they've said, don't do it. We want a residential area. We don't want to have to pull out of our pocket for infrastructure for private people to build profit-seeking enterprises. People want to live in a nice place to raise their kids, pay their taxes, have good schools. That's what this is about. And if instead you guys decide that, you know what, we're siding with commercial interests, well, in the short term, that might work, but in the long term, it ruins the spirit of what this community and this city, this town, is all about. It's what we bought into, you know? That's all I have to say. I hope that you consider that before you make these decisions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any follow-up questions?
If I can ask Ms. Carey, can we pull up the site plan for K2 so we can have some additional context during public participation? I can't quite recall from the site visit. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. I also did want to just read in before I forget, we did receive an email that I wanted to read into the record for this evening. This is from Ralph and Barbara Melio at 43 Woodhaven Drive, and it reads, we reside at 43 Woodhaven Drive and overlook the proposed parking lot development and are very much in favor of its approval. We have been to the K2 Brewery and are very aware of the difficulty of egress onto Empire Boulevard. The proposed turning lane will do much to alleviate the problem. Furthermore, the infrastructure improvements will greatly improve the roadway, leading both to the K2 Brewery and the proposed parking area. This area overlooking Irondequoit Bay is a gem that, if properly developed, will add to the tax base and overall ambience of LaSalle's Landing. Okay.
I do have
next.
another person who signed up. Vernon Lovelace.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Vern Lovelace. I live at 19 Old Westfall Drive. And hello, Linda. That's the only face that I recognize in this board. Although I've been appearing before it for at least 8 years regarding the development of this several parcels of land. And in the past, I've always gotten notification of these meetings, but this meeting is the first one I've ever found out about under this board. And I'm not throwing any type of accusations, but in the past, I've been notified when anything was coming up with these parcels for any consideration of its development in the last 8-9 years. Anyways, I'm very familiar historically where this has come from, and the first person who was going to develop this and his corporation was going to develop it. But my question is, are you familiar with the history of this as an individual on this board representing the voters of this community? Are you familiar with the history of the company that tried to develop it and found out all the problems inherent with it, and then the subsequent developers' interest in it and a waxing and a waning interest in developing this, and the things that they found out about the property, and all the issues we went to relative to the potential for injuring the watershed areas, and the valuations of our homes, and the inability to develop up the slope that they wanted to develop with townhomes, and then they changed it to something else. This has been a constant flux, and one of the big problems I've had with it is I have never heard the board address the issue of the traffic. The board has allowed the north side of the Empire Boulevard to have these huge nondescript developments which are putting out huge numbers of traffic daily going in and out of the various developments. And historically, we know, because we reviewed at these board meetings the accidents that were happening and the change of the accidents when more development was done. And I've always been a proponent of not developing this south side because of the issue of getting onto the Empire Boulevard. It is hell. You cannot go out there and expect people to turn south, or turn from south going north onto Empire and turn to the west towards Arundecoit. You just can't do it. You've got a big bluff that sits in front of the view. You have the speeding traffic coming around that bluff, especially during rush hour. You have the traffic 2 lanes coming down the hill, and nobody gives a damn about what you're doing on the south side trying to enter into the traffic. You need to look at the issue of all the accidents that have happened and the number that have changed since all this great development has occurred. My concern is that that is not the developer's problem. He's there to make a profit. This issue is your problem. I really hold each one of you responsible for every accident happens that shouldn't happen out there on Empire Boulevard. If you allow this development to add 165 more parking spots, which puts out 165 potential new drivers in a short amount of time, if you want to have certain types of programs at K2 where they all are getting out, 100 people going out in the space of an hour is a huge number. You are responsible for everybody who gets injured or rear-ended or whatever happens. It's not the developer. They want to make a profit. They want to convert this property to something that they got into 4 or 5 years ago into a profitable situation. Eventually, we let, as a board and a community, they were going to put in condominiums and apartments. I mean, they vacillated between who could make the most money for them. But we were restricting it not to have all the townhomes up the hillside. And this is another way of bringing more traffic in. This is not fair to the people who come in here to use K2's facilities who are unaware of the traffic issue. They don't know about it till they try to pull out onto Empire Boulevard. Now, that certainly does not equate to this term, or was it public benefit? It may help the emergency services and the doctors who have to treat the injured, but there's no public benefit by increasing the risk of people getting hurt, whether they're citizens of Penfield or not. There's no public benefit. And I think you each should sit back and assess it and think of you or your children pulling out onto Empire Boulevard after dark, God forbid, but during the daytime. For years, when I used to go to Rochester General Hospital, I would go down to that intersection of Wilbur, and this is 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when I was allowed to use the access by Fino Procora to shorten my road trip. I would sit there 10 minutes at times during rush hour traffic to get out onto Empire to turn left to head towards Arundecoit. You need to know these things before you willy-nilly allow this development to occur. Linda's heard me say all these same things for the last 8 to 10 years. And it's not going to be my responsibility. I mean, you guys make up your own mind, but I just don't think you can define public benefit any way with this development. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Lovelace.
Thank you.
No, I don't have any more.
Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to this application? Good evening. Hi. Please feel free to introduce yourself and your address for the record.
I'm Bob Reed, 275 Parkview Drive. I don't really have a dog in the fight. It's not going to affect me one way or the other. But I do want to share the concerns that my neighbors have raised, with the exception of Ralph and Barb Melio. I think it's developmental overbuild. I'm also concerned that so much of what I've observed, the rules being changed for businesses at their convenience, often at someone else's expense. And I think of the Super Walmart development, where a strip of land was rezoned. It had not been residential. It had been some kind of buffer between where Super Walmart was going to go and a residential area. And this was changed over the agonized pleas of the neighborhood that knew that 24-hour deliveries would mean noise and light around the clock. But I guess the balance there is you let Super Walmart do what Super Walmart wants to do. A different situation, but similar, very near us, Glendevere's Party House wanted to an override of their non-conforming use permit, which usually forbids expansion. They wanted a handful, maybe a dozen or two new parking spaces. So they got permission to deforest a hillside adjacent to Lucian Morin Park and then start removing it truckload by truckload. It's pretty much out of view of the public. It doesn't affect anybody's quality of life, but it does affect the park, potential to affect the park. There are probably other examples, but I think at some point you have to say, if a business wants to expand, maybe they need to go somewhere else, rather than get the rules especially tailored for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any follow-up questions? Okay, is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to this public hearing? Okay, I am not seeing anyone online or on the phone. So seeing none, I will declare this public hearing closed, and this will be brought back for further discussion. Thank you to all those who participated. You've given a lot to think about. Councilperson Drawe, any questions? No. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on now to our first public participation section of the evening. Again, if you would like to reach us on any other topic, it's 340-8771. It is penfield.org, or you can speak in person. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in public participation session? Okay. I am not seeing anyone on the phone, nor am I seeing anyone online. So I will declare this public participation section closed. Please note that there is another opportunity to address the board at the end of this legislative session. As I mentioned before, I would like to move to enter into an executive session pursuant to Public Officers Law 105 to discuss issues related to collective bargaining and negotiating, and also a personnel matter related to the employment of a particular person.
I would second that, Madam Supervisor.
We have a motion by the supervisor and a second by Councilperson Drawe. Would the town clerk please have a roll call vote?
Cinti?
Aye.
Drawe?
Aye.
Kohl?
Aye.
Lee? Aye. Ockenden?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, thank you very much. This meeting will stand adjourned until the conclusion of executive session. Good evening, and we are returning back to our regular session of the Town Board Legislative Meeting. It is 9:18 p.m. We'll move on to our additions and deletions to the agenda. Any additions or deletions?
Yes, Madam Supervisor, I have two additions under new business.
Okay.
They will be Resolution 22T-206 and 22T-205. I'm sorry, it should have been 205 and 206.
Yes.
I'll move those.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilperson Drawe and a second by Councilperson Kohl. If there are no other questions or comments for that, we'll take a roll call vote.
We don't usually do a roll
No, we
call
don't.
vote for additions and deletions.
Okay, everybody okay with it?
We're good. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, moving on to the approval of minutes from July 20th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kohl and a second by Councilperson Lee. Are there any questions or comments about the minutes?
No, ma'am.
Now I really will take a roll call vote for those.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Has the town clerk or any town board members received any petitions?
No, ma'am.
No.
Nope. Okay, we'll move on to our resolutions by function.
Okay. Adoption of local law number 4 of 2022 to be entitled 5-member Board of Ethics.
So moved.
Second.
The Town Board of the Town of Penfield proposes to adopt local law number 4 of 2022 entitled the 5-member Board of Ethics. The Penfield Town Board is best suited to act as lead agency within the meaning of the SEEKR, which is the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and designating itself as lead agency pursuant to SEEKR. The subject action is determined to be a Type 2 action pursuant to the SEEKR, and the Town Board as lead agency has determined this action will not have significant effect on the environment. The Town Board held a public hearing tonight, August 17th at 7 p.m. to consider this said proposal and to hear all persons interested on the question of the adoption of local law number 4. And the public hearing was closed and a decision was reserved. Now therefore be it resolved and hereby enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Penfield as follows for local law number 4. To establish a 5-member Board of Ethics. This law should be known and cited as local law number 4 of 2022 to the Town of Penfield. The Penfield Code of Ethics is hereby amended to change the Penfield Board of Ethics from a 3-member board to a 5-member board. And this is the local law, after its adoption by the Town Board, shall take effect immediately upon its filing with the Office of the Secretary of the State of New York. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilperson Drawe and the second by Councilperson Kohl. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none?
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Budget transfer in the general fund for building department.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas a transfer is necessary from the fire marshal account to the building department account for required training, the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to its current income and expenditures, so therefore be it resolved that the following 2022 budget transfer be approved. From the fire marshal's budget of $400 to the building department for $400. Thank you.
Okay, a motion by Councilperson Drawe and a second by Councilperson Lee. If there are no questions or comments, we can move to a roll call vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for the town supervisor to sign an agreement with the Greater Rochester Disc Golf Club.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas the town desires to promote the positive development, emotional, and physical enrichment of the Penfield community by supporting and providing quality facilities for disc golf within the town of Penfield. The Greater Rochester Disc Golf Club has expressed an interest in supporting the town with financial contributions for disc golf course capital improvements, as well as the maintenance and upkeep of such facilities. And whereas the town prepared an agreement that has been reviewed and approved by the appropriate department heads, the town attorney, and the Greater Rochester Disc Golf Club. So therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to sign this agreement with the Greater Rochester Disc Club. And I should state that this is for disc golf that would be played at Shadow Pines on the new course over there.
Okay, thank you, Councilperson Drawe. You've made a motion, and then it's seconded by Councilperson Ockenden. Are there any questions or comments?
I have one. Is the committed interest for the maintenance and upkeep of such facilities by the Disc Golf Club, is that ongoing for the duration of this agreement, or?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
No.
Okay, roll call vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign a license and hold harmless agreement to allow an asphalt pad within a storm sewer easement at 135 Farmbrook Drive.
So moved.
Second.
The Town Board of the Town of Penfield hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign a license and hold harmless agreement with Gary S. and Linda A. Jones, the owners of the property at 135 Farmbrook Drive, to allow an existing asphalt basketball pad to continue to stay within a storm sewer easement to the Town of Penfield located at 135 Farmbrook Drive in a form and substance acceptable to the town attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilperson Drawe and a second from Councilperson Kohl. Any questions or comments? Reminder, this was discussed at the work session last week.
Yes.
So with seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign a license and hold harmless agreement to allow shrubs within a storm sewer easement at 36 Random Knolls.
So moved. The town. Thank you. The Town Board of the Town of Penfield hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign a license and hold a harmless agreement with Dr. I'm going to say it wrong, Zbigniew and Bosnia Granat, the owners of the property at 36 Random Knolls, to permit shrubs to be planted within a storm sewer easement to the Town of Penfield located at 36 Random Knolls in a form and substance acceptable to the town attorney. And this also, we discussed at work session last week as well, and I apologize if I said your names wrong, so thank you.
Thank you. Motion by Councilperson Drawe and a second by Councilperson Lee. If there are no questions, we'll do a roll call vote.
Cinti.
Aye.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Acceptance of state and local fiscal recovery funds, allocation under the American Rescue Plan Act, and determination of projects.
So moved. The town,
Do I have a second?
second?
Second.
Bob? Thanks, Bob. Thanks. The Town of Penfield received a total of $3,825,732.08 under the American Rescue Plan Act local fiscal recovery funds. The town accepts the terms and conditions for expending and reporting the use of these said federal funds. The town board spent several months and meetings reviewing potential projects to be funded under this program and sought the advice and counsel of the town attorney and third-party auditor. And whereas a public hearing was held on July 20th at 7 p.m. here at the town hall to receive public input on the projects being considered by the town board. Therefore, be it resolved that the town board has decided to utilize a portion of the allocation for the following projects with the outlined estimated costs. 1, Shadow Pines infrastructure for $2 million. Number 2, upgrading the town streetlights to LED for $450,000. And number 3, the town center, which is Four Corners improvements, for $100,000. Be it further resolved that aforementioned projects will be completed in accordance with the town's procurement policies and all applicable federal and state regulations and guidelines. Thank you.
I have a motion by Councilperson Drawe with a second by Councilperson Ockenden. Are there any questions or comments?
I wanted to share some final thoughts and my rationale so that the board, as well as the public, is aware. So as everyone knows, over the past several sessions, I've expressed some concerns regarding the ARPA allocations, and it was helpful to hear from the public of what's important, especially to the pickleball community. For example, we've heard that, there are no dedicated pickleball courts and that existing courts are in need of regular maintenance, that wind is an important factor in allowing optimal play, and all of this makes sense to me. I'm fully supportive of the town taking reasonable measures to promote these activities, but it's also my understanding that the budgeted financials based on the actual site plan do not include fence screening, nor have those other repairs or potential converting of existing courts to pickleball-only courts been considered as part of this plan. And I understand that, these details might not be known at a granular level at this juncture, but I still have these concerns as to the potential financial impact to taxpayers when we've been told that the final costs for the Shadow Pines project will exceed the grant portion allocated. And I've also spent time studying ARPA investment trackers and COVID-19 local actions, which surveyed more than 300 local governments and more than 4,600 projects that utilized ARPA funding. And the vast majority of those were spent on government operations in direct response to COVID-19 impacts or investments in water and sewer projects. And because the town has identified water and sewer needs, which I understand there's other grant sourcing potentially available, but I have to respectfully disagree in not including those necessary projects when we actually have the ARPA funding in hand. And so for these reasons, I will be voting no tonight.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, for the record, I would also like to just mention that I appreciate Councilperson Lee's comments. I do have confidence in our Director of Finance and our auditor that we are spending appropriately. This is an earmark for a fund for pickleball, and to me, this is one part of putting together a package to finance whatever it is we can afford to do. I think this is, again, just earmarking the funds, looking for other sources of funding as well, and putting together a final amount. So I'm in support of this. Happy to do a roll call vote now.
Okay. Cinti?
Aye.
Drawe?
Aye.
Kohl?
Aye.
Lee?
No.
Ockenden?
Aye.
4 ayes, 1 no. Setting a public hearing for an amendment to the zoning ordinance and map to consider rezoning of 1345 Shoecraft Road from rural residential 1 to residential 120.
So moved.
Second.
An application has been received by the Penfield Town Board pursuant to Chapter 250, 15.1 of the Code to amend the zoning ordinance and map to rezone 1345 Shoecraft Road from rural residential to residential 120. So whereas the Penfield Town Board is best suited to act as lead agency within the meaning of the Environmental Quality Review Act, which is seeker, and thus does hereby designate itself as lead agency pursuant to seeker. So now therefore be it resolved that the subject application is determined to be an unlisted action pursuant to the seeker, and be it further that the Town Board of the Town of Penfield shall hold a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on September 21st at 7 p.m. on that date to consider the said application and to hear all persons interested on the question of amending the zoning ordinance of the map to rezone 1345 Shoecraft Road from rural residential 1 to rural 120 to residential 120, as more particularly described in Schedule A, attached hereto and made a part hereof. And be it further resolved that the public notice of this hearing shall be published at least once in the official newspaper of the town, no less than 10 days and no more than 20 days before the date set for this hearing. A copy of this resolution should be posted on the official signboard of the town as prescribed by law. Thank you.
I have a motion by Councilperson Drawe with a second by Councilperson Kohl. Are there any questions? Okay.
Cinti?
Aye.
Drawe?
Aye.
Kohl?
Aye.
Lee?
Yes.
Ockenden?
Aye.
5 ayes. Setting a public hearing to consider rezoning 933 State Road from rural residential 1 to residential 120.
So moved.
Second.
So another application has been received by the Penfield Town Board to amend the zoning ordinance and map to rezone 933 State Road from rural residential 1 to residential 120. Whereas the Penfield Town Board is best suited to act as lead agency within the meaning of seeker, and thus does hereby designate itself as lead agency pursuant to seeker. So now therefore be it resolved that the subject application is determined to be another unlisted action pursuant to seeker, and be it further resolved that the Town Board of Penfield shall hold a public hearing on September 21st at 7 p.m. on this day to consider this said application and to hear all persons interested on the question of amending the zoning ordinance and map for 933 State Road from rural residential 1 to residential 120, as more particularly described in Schedule A, attached hereto and made a part hereof, and be it further noticed that this public hearing should be published at least once in the official newspaper of the town, and the first publication to be not less than 10 days or more than 20 days before the date set for this hearing. A copy of the public notice shall be posted on the official signboard of the town as prescribed by law. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilperson Drawe and a second by Councilperson Lee. If there are no questions or comments, we can move right to a vote.
Cinti?
Aye.
Drawe?
Aye.
Kohl?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Ockenden?
Aye.
5 ayes. Old
I
business.
think Councilperson Lee, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, we've finished our resolutions by function. Is there any old business before the board to continue on? All right, seeing none, we'll move right to new business.
Appointment of chair for Conservation Board.
So moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that Burton Gordon be appointed interim chair of the Penfield Conservation Board for the remaining term expiring December 31st, 2022, at an annual salary as established by the town board.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilperson Lee and a second by Councilperson Ockenden. Any questions?
I would just like to make a statement, if I will. I serve as a liaison to the Conservation Board, and I think Bert will be a wonderful addition, replacement, interim chair for this board. I wanted to especially thank Jim Olmsted, who's stepping down as the chair of this board. He's committed a lot of time to this town. I believe something to 20-something years. I might even have it. Linda might know. It's maybe about 20 years Jim has served, so we thank him very much for his service, and we wish Bert will do a good job leading this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilperson Drawe. I do want to extend my gratitude to Jim Olmsted for his leadership and service to the community over many years. All right.
Cinti?
Aye.
Drawe?
Aye.
Kohl?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Ockenden?
Aye.
5 ayes. Resolution to appoint hearing officer to conduct New York Civil Service Law, Section 75 proceeding.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas Marie Cinti, the town supervisor for the town of Penfield, has commenced a proceeding and requested a hearing pursuant to Section 75 of the New York State Civil Service Law regarding a particular employee working in the town on August 17th, 2022. And whereas Section 75 requires that a hearing upon disciplinary charges shall be held by the officer or body having the power to remove the person against whom such charges are preferred, or by a deputy or another person designated by such officer or body in writing for that purpose. And whereas in case a deputy or other person is so designated, he or she shall, for the purpose of such hearing, be vested with all the powers and acting on behalf of such officer or body, and shall make a record of such hearing, which shall, with his or her recommendations, be referred to such officer or body for review and decision. Whereas the supervisor has recommended the appointment of Brian Marinetti, Esquire, as the town board's designating hearing officer. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to prefer charges against the particular employee. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby appoints Brian Marinetti, Esquire, as its designee to be the hearing officer pursuant to Section 75, and that he shall hold, with respect to the disciplinary charges brought by the supervisor on August 17th, 2022, and further authorizes the hearing officer to hear evidence, make a transcript of the proceedings, and to issue a written report of his findings and recommendations to the town board. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a motion by Councilperson Drawe with a second by Councilperson Kohl. If there are no questions or comments, we can move to a vote.
Cinti?
Aye.
Drawe?
Aye.
Kohl?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Ockenden?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. I believe we have one more new business item. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that the town has received, or the town board has received, an application through my office for revised special use permit and revised site plan associated with 1221 Empire Boulevard. That's the K2 Brothers Brewing, their actual main building. They're looking at making some changes to the interior of their building, including an exterior deck on the north side of the building and refacing the entire structure. Because of the changes that they're proposing, we believe this should be subject to a public hearing. And so I'd like to prepare a resolution for September 7th to set that public hearing.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the town board for Ms. Ivers? I think it's fairly straightforward, and I recognize that we're not in work session next week, so I appreciate.
And that's the only reason I'm bringing it forward. I had prepared a overview of a timeline prior to that meeting being canceled, and so in order to sort of.
Like a vote?
I think just okay. Typically, how we would handle it at work session, you would let me know that you're in.
She's just adding it.
Okay.
And I just didn't want it to be a surprise and show up on an agenda without your knowledge beforehand.
Appreciate it, and I appreciate your efforts to kind of move the governmental process along, so thank you very much. I believe that concludes all our new business. We do have one more public participation session. Next, we again will take your comments online at penfield.org or by phone 340-8771. I don't believe we have anyone scheduled online or on the phone, and I think we've gone through them all. So we'll declare this public participation session closed. We've already had our executive session. Please note that our next meeting will be at 6:30 p.m. on September 7th, 2022. We wish all of you a very nice Labor Day holiday. Please stay safe. And I will declare this meeting adjourned at 9:40 p.m. Thank you, and thank you to PCTV and to our town clerk and our Director of Developmental Services.